Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make paper from scraps that you might have lying around the house. The paper we are making is great for watercolors, acrylics, and markers. It's also great paper for greeting cards, place cards, and bookmarks. You can embed the paper with flower petals and seeds. It can even be scented to add beautiful smells like lavender and eucalyptus. The paper that I'm making today is made from shredder scraps from the family shredder. The pieces are cut fine, but if you do not have a shredder, you should be able to follow along well when using ripped or cut up paper. You may notice that the final paper that I am showing you is very coarse. It's this way specifically because I'm only using hand tools and hot water to make the paper. Not everyone has access to an extra blender, and it's not the safest to use your family blender for a project like this, as paper is filled with starches, dyes, and other chemicals that could be harmful. I am only using my hands and a whisk throughout this whole process to show you how easy it is. I am using a metal bowl for this project, as it is less porous than plastic. Ceramics and glass also work very well. As I dump the scraps into the bowl, you can see that I am picking pieces that are too thick or made of plastic. So things like window envelopes and card clippings are discarded from the bowl. I am also being slightly picky by pulling most of the colored scraps out to ensure my final project is a homogeneous color. Once I am happy, I add hot water. I am using water directly from a coffee maker that hits around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The water should completely encompass the paper. A healthy amount of water is best. I roughly measure this by exceeding the height of the scraps with as much water as it would take to reach the second joint on my index finger. I then let the water sit for about 20 minutes, enough time to cool the water to a manageable temperature. Alright, so this has been sitting for about 20 minutes or so. And as you can see, there are some things floating up at the top. Those are just pieces of, thicker paper or cardboard that I wasn't able to pick out when we first started. Some of them you can rip up nice and easy. Throw those out of the bowl. Get those out. You can see they don't rip. These rip, so we're going to keep those in. And also, this is set long enough where the water isn't super hot to the touch. It's more warm and it's safe to maneuver, it's safe to put your hands in. So we can go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so what I'm using right now is just an older whisk. One we don't use anymore for kitchen use because, as you can see, it's super rusty. It is very old, and so what we're going to do, we're going to use this to kind of break this up a little bit. We're not using a blender because I wanted to make this easier to do at home. So today we're going to use just the whisk and then of course our hands. So as you can see, it isn't a fine pulp just because we're doing everything by hand. You can do it for as long as you want to try to get a finer pulp. But for right now, I'm going to stop right about here. I think this is good for my intentions, for the instructions of the video. So this is where we're going to stop. I'm using a simple screen print mesh that I had from previous projects, but you can use any kind of fabric mesh. You can use window screen. That's actually something I'll be doing in the future because I want some bigger pieces of paper. As you can see, this is kind of small. It's a good size, but it's kind of small. So I'm going to be using some window screen. I've seen people use cheesecloth, and then also if you don't have any of those things, you can also use old towels. Work completely fine if you have a rolling pin. You can also do this part in a bathtub or a large sink. I'm doing this on my desk for the sake of the video. The mesh is fully submerged in the water with only the frame dry. To make this part more manageable, I'm using a cup that I usually use to water my bedroom plants to transfer the pulp from the bowl to the basin. As I am doing this, I am trying my best to evenly disperse the pulp into the frame. I noticed as I was pulling the frame up, there was some uneven areas, so I scraped the pulp and tried again. Being successful, I pulled the frame from the water and set it on the edge of the basin to allow excess water to evacuate. The frame was then placed onto an old towel. I placed the paper towel on top to wick additional moisture. Since I do not have a decal mold, this will also serve as a support when I flip the paper out of the frame. The paper is flipped and additional moisture is wicked from the top facing side. This step allows for easier removal from the mold. I carefully separate the paper from the mold. Depending on how fast you go, you may have some tearing. Do not fear, the paper can still be saved. We are going to use the convection oven. It makes it 100 times easier and faster to dry. So that's what we're going to use today. I'm going to put it on its lowest setting and let the paper chill in here for about an hour. And then we're going to come back and check on it to see if it's dried. Now it's time to iron it. After ironing, the paper is ready to use. However, I will be using mine for cards. As oil can leave spots on paper, lavender essential oil is softly dotted onto tissue and placed into a bag. Paper is added and sealed. In a day or two, the paper can be removed and the scent will linger.